Okay. Let's just stop right there. That was taken from a video that I created just over a couple of years ago on my second channel. And it was my first impression of Destiny 2 after participating in the beta. I tried to jazz up the video, put some music, take some artistic shots. I even ended up in a field of cows talking about the downsides of a field of that field doesn't exist anymore. It's gone. There's houses. They built out the cows. Doesn't matter. What I wanted to really say in that video was Bungie were a company that I really wanted to get behind. I loved Halo and I loved the idea of Destiny. But the first Destiny left me very wanting indeed, apart from the great Taken King. And Destiny 2, well, that was just more Destiny, wasn't it? So here we are a couple of years later, and this just lay rotting on my shelf. I was so mad at myself for purchasing it as well. Why? Because the beta was exactly what I thought it was for the full game. Just more Destiny. And a lot of people felt the same way. Not only that, they were really taken aback by how everything seemed to now be focused on the Eververse store, the whole shader debacle, and if you had purchased the season pass or whatever with a couple of additional expansions to be added on, it just followed the same formula as Destiny. Basic expansions, not a lot going on, and not feeling as if you're getting your money's worth. People were really annoyed with this franchise. And what was more disappointing, of course, was the fact that Bungie was attached to it. We like Bungie, don't we? Don't we?
Got the servitor, and the servitor took down the other fallen.
You've smashed their hopes to powder again. Excellent.
Ah, the leading man. But that was the question. Who was the leading man? Was it Bungie or was it Activision? These companies were in partnership with one another. Now, thankfully, Activision didn't own Bungie. Woof, no. This was a deal, a 10-year plan. And judging by the fact that they pushed Destiny 2 out so quickly, showed that the first part didn't quite go according to. But then something happened. The outcry of the Destiny 2 boredom, that had died down, and there was this patch of silence. And then out of the blue, some incredible news happened. Bungie and Activision were getting divorced. They were splitting up, and way sooner than the 10-year plan coming into fruition.
This is what the Taken feel. Revel in this. That's one. That's two. The executioners come to town. Are you having fun yet? Hi!
Yes, we were starting to have fun, because it was always seen as Activision being the evil overlords of this franchise, and I don't think anything more telling than the Eververse store and how unbelievably greedy and egregious it was at the launch of Destiny 2. And then you just had to look at all the other franchises that Activision had their fingers in, and also, of course, owning Blizzard Entertainment and seeing what was happening in regards to that, particularly the disastrous BlizzCon 2018, where they just seemed to completely reveal themselves to the world for exactly who they were. Just greedy people who didn't care anything about their customer base whatsoever. This could only be seen as a positive thing for Bungie. However, we have to keep things in perspective, of course. Bungie and Activision had been involved in this relationship. Bungie had to be complicit in the decision-making processes as to what we'd seen, but the positive fact that they, before the end of the 10-year plan, had decided that their vision of the game no longer matched the vision that Activision had, spelt positivity. Because one side had shown nothing but greed, whereas the other side, the Bungie side of things, had shown utter greatness with the Halo franchise. And there was just, unbelievable gameplay to be had in Destiny. It was just the way in which it was delivered. However, trust had to be earned. It would be so easy to go running back into those warm, open, inviting arms, but people were burned. They had seen things like this happen before, and they were slow to trust. The gaming industry has taught people that, sadly. But over time, people decided to listen more and to maybe be a little bit more forgiving towards them. And this is where I enter the equation. So it's early spring of this year, and I'm playing Apex Legends with a friend of mine. It's a game that we'd both really got into, and we had a ton of fun playing it with each other. And then they casually mentioned how much of a Destiny fan they are and how they love Destiny 2. However, all their friends that used to play with them had drifted off. They had drifted off, and how sad they were about that situation. So I told them about my experience, the fact that I was actually annoyed with myself for buying it in the first place because I could clearly see what it was going to be by the beta test. But they told me about the changes that had been made to the product. They told me about how the Eververse store had been seriously reeled back on and how they'd made some significant changes there and really took the focus and the emphasis of the game away from that area. They told me about the shader changes that they brought in, the way that they had also started to, and more importantly, of course, turn the content to be more geared towards the established Destiny player base. So you still had your random loots and your random drops and all that sort of stuff and your Zur and whatnot, but you also had things to strive towards, to aim towards, quest steps, all this sort of stuff. And they kind of sold it to me. They made me go out and get Destiny 2 Forsaken, where it has the base game, the 2 expansions that came if you got the collector's edition or the season pass or whatever, and then of course the Forsaken expansion itself. However, there was still one more twist to be had here, because although I went out and made the purchase, I still didn't put it into my machine and play. Something was just holding me back from making that final step, for making that leap of faith and giving Bungie one more chance. You see, as mentioned, this conversation that I had with my friend happened very early spring, not that long after the news broke about Bungie and Activision splitting. So the purchase of Forsaken, in my eyes, I saw it more of a 2 fingers up towards Activision as opposed to a vindication or an approval of Bungie itself. However, as it sat on my games desk or whatever, I realised that the only way I'm ever going to know whether or not Destiny 2 has significantly improved is to actually play it. And if Bungie and Activision had completely different ideals about the direction that they wanted the franchise to go in, then surely if I was enjoying it now, it would be a huge plus for Bungie, because it would mean that I personally was gravitating towards the vision of the game that they wanted to create, and, well, that would mean that I'd be enjoying myself. So I bit the bullet and I did it. I put the game back in, and at first, yes, I was sort of like, where am I? What am I doing? Where do I go? What do I do? And it was all very disorientating, of course. But after a little bit of play, after a bit of looking around, after a bit of re-familiarizing myself with certain areas, etc., I soon began to understand where things were going with the game. And I got myself involved in the Solstice event, which I thoroughly enjoyed. It sent me plenty of tasks to do, and I went out and I completed them, and I got myself a very basic set of armor, but it was at a relatively high light level, and that allowed me to progress to other things, etc. But it was when I hit places like the Tangled Shore that I got really kind of back involved in the game. And then, oh my God, when I unlocked the Dreaming City, and I didn't realize that I could. I had heard about this Dreaming City, but when I unlocked the Dreaming City and the unbelievable beauty of that area, I was just mesmerized and blown away. But I found that there were plenty of things that I could go back and do from the other expansions, etc. And I suddenly realized I was having an amazing time. Now, just going to reel back slightly. This isn't one of those moments from Todd Howard where the ends justifies the means. No, not by any stretch of the imagination, because it was actually Forsaken that felt like Destiny 2, not the initial release. Forsaken seemed to have enough content, enough diversity, enough varied tasks, objects, gear, loots, etc. to keep people interested for a decent period of time. And if Destiny 2 had released as Forsaken, then I think it would have been a very, very great sequel to the game. And it also would have shown that evolution of the franchise. However, it didn't. But with that said, the amount of fun and enjoyment I've had by being able to bounce between these various areas, between these various forms of content and the way that they are delivered, fills me with hope that the idea, the direction, the vision that Bungie have for this franchise is the correct one, is the vision that I personally want to get behind, that I want to support, and not the one clearly that Activision had in mind if they were going in the opposite directions. And so the amount of enjoyment that I've had, the amount of fun that I've had, the amazing experience from coming back to it and realizing that this game is a whole load of fun. And if you've missed that really tight, incredible Bungie first-person shooter mechanics and were disillusioned with Destiny 2 like so many others, that I would legitimately say, this is the time now. This is the time to give them a second chance, with Shadowkeep coming out tomorrow. The game is currently down. It's in maintenance for 24 hours while they get everything set up for the new expansion release tomorrow. But this is where you should re-enter. I have a very good feeling about Shadowkeep, and not just the various bits of media footage or whatever that I've seen around the place. No, my hope for Shadowkeep comes from a deeper perspective. It comes from actually seeing this game evolve, seeing this game change, more importantly, seeing this game dramatically improve, and offering so much varied game style, content, collection of items, exotics, etc., that there is something here for literally everybody. But more importantly, this is something that you should, heaven forbid you won't, you should really enjoy and get your teeth into. So without really knowing and purposely keeping away from most of the Shadowkeep stuff, and with Shadowkeep being probably the first bit of Destiny content with virtually no, if not zilch, Activision input, I'm very excited and I'm very hopeful for this game and this franchise going forward. Make no bones about it, this is a massive step for Bungie. Their reputation is literally on the line here, because for the first time, I think we really get to see who the true Bungie are and what the true Bungie's vision is for Destiny 2. And if people see way too much Activision in there and they can't distinguish between the two, then that's going to spell a mitigated disaster, because trust is already so fragile when it comes to this franchise. But if we see the steps that they've already taken continue to flourish, if we see that their vision for Destiny 2 is the one which is going to legitimately bring gamers back, and I think it is, then this is the time to join. This is the time to get back into Destiny 2 and give it that one final shot, which it could be for a lot of people. So I hope you enjoyed the vid. If you did, do give it a thumbs up, and also subscribe to the channel. Follow me on social media and Twitch for live streaming. Links there in the description box down below, and I'll be back with some more stuff very soon. You take care. Bye for now.